So hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the GAN's Power in Politics and African Conversation that is being hosted by WoMin. So during the process of the meeting, if you have any questions or if you have any reactions, we'll ask you at the bottom of your screen. There are icons. There are icons for reactions. There's also a chat box. There's also a raise your hand. If you feel like you need to raise a question or you need to raise your hand, raise your hand. Use the chat box to raise any questions that you may have, any concerns that you may have, or any problems that you may have, be it with interpretation or anything during the course of the meeting.
Okay, Renette, thank you very much, Renette. I welcome everybody to this discussion session, and I thank all of you for joining in. The primary objective of this session is to stimulate an African conversation on large-scale natural resource exploitation and the violence on ecosystem, workers, communities, and women specifically. We are locating this analysis in the context of the COVID-19 moment in which violence and repression have been employed by the state apparatus as a means of controlling people. And we are challenging conventional narratives about violence in mining and extractives. We will have case studies from our partners in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Sierra Leone, as well as allies working in other extractive sectors outside mining. At this stage, I'm going to share some guiding principles, but I want to understand that what Winnet shared before I came on has guided us on how to listen in, respect each other's views, show kindness, and be careful of the words that we use during the conversation. At this stage, I want to call on Sam to take us through the work that has been done so far on this sector and also give us a background to this webinar. Sam,
great.
You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Amen. Thank you, Renette. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy we can have this important conversation. So welcome. I'm just going to give a very brief background. WoMin started building in 2011. We launched in October 2013. And already by 2012, we had produced a first research paper addressing the question of the impacts of extractives on women's bodies. So we were looking at conflict, but also HIV/AIDS, malaria, but violence against women as a theme already then in 2012. And as we have worked over the years, this has been a running theme in our work. And so in 2016, we resolved that it would be very important to work on the question of violence against women linked to militarization and securitization of extractive sites. We saw this as a very strategic area of work because it would allow us to bridge the women's movement that typically does address violence against women, but then bring in the extractive sector and make important linkages that at that time were still invisible and are largely invisible now. And so this is a research series that we have been working on for a few years. We launched it on Monday through an e-launch, and the conversation follows. Please do take a look at the research. It's focused on Sierra Leone, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. It offers a really deep and thoughtful analysis around economic structure, around extractives as a development model, so i.e. development fueled through the extraction of resources at a large scale, and draws a number of very important conclusions around how violence really does lie at the very heart of an extractive development model. And these are the questions we're going to explore in this meeting today. So thank you very much. I welcome you, and I'll now hand back to Amem. Thanks, Amem.
We will first have Simiso Levu, who is a development practitioner with serious interest in mineral resources. Please, are you hearing me? Simiso works with the Center for Natural Resource Governance in Zimbabwe. CNRG is a CSO. in Zimbabwe, and Simiso is there as the Media Liaison and Programs Officer. After Simiso, we will take Gisela, and the top panelist will be Esther Finda. For now, I'll hand over the floor to Simiso. Simiso, you have 7 minutes to make your presentation, and when you have 1 minute left, I will signal you to round off. Your 7 minutes starts now.
Okay, then, thank you very much. Technology got jealous and disconnected me just as you were introducing me. But it's good I'm back. So basically my presentation is about the situation, militarization, securitization, and violence against women in Zimbabwe's extractive sector. The focus is Manicaland, where there is diamond mining. The area is called Marange. Diamonds were discovered in 2005 in an area called Chiadzwa. It's in Marange, Manicaland province. It's about 100 kilometers from the capital city of Manicaland province. So between 2005 and 2008, Zimbabweans, ordinary Zimbabweans were actually allowed to undertake artisanal diamond mining. Then maybe I should add that in 2005, there was Operation Restore Order in Zimbabwe. Operation Restore Order meant that the government was destroying informal structures with the cities and towns. So most ordinary Zimbabweans, poor Zimbabweans were affected because they could not afford decent accommodation. So their structures, shelters were destroyed, and they were forced to look for other means of survival. And when diamonds were discovered, they trickled back to Marange, where they joined other artisanal miners, and they survived on artisanal mining. But then in 2008, the government decided to take over the diamond fields, and Zimbabwe Republic police officers were deployed to chase away the artisanal miners. There was some sort of resistance by artisanal miners, and eventually government deployed the military as reinforcement. When the military was deployed, apparently state resources were also used. Helicopters were also used. So they rounded up artisanal miners. They started firing guns. About 200 people were killed. We can move to the next slide, Winnet. About 200 people were killed during that operation. So the operation was called Operation Agudzoki, Operation You Do Not Return. So by end of 2008, government successfully took over the diamond fields. And in 2009, 7 mining companies were licensed to operate. However, the licenses of these mining companies was withdrawn in 2006. Government cited various reasons, which I'm not going to delve into here. So early 2016, a state-owned enterprise called Zimbabwe Consolidated Diamond Company was formed. Consolidated Diamond Company is owned 100% by the government of Zimbabwe. So the presence of the military continued. The military was not withdrawn, despite the fact that we had formalized, Zimbabwe had formalized the mining, diamond mining in Marange. So ZCDC then hired its own security officers. It's a private security company, but it also includes state security agents. They manage and direct the lives of communities living within or close to mining areas. So generally, since 2005, the people of Marange have been living in this highly militarized community where several companies have been mining, and now ZCDC, although in the past few months there's been a new entrant owned by the Chinese Anjin Investments. So what the formalization of mining meant for the community of Marange was that the fields were taken. These people, Marange is a community area, it's a communal land. So people generally survive on subsistence farming and other activities that sustain the local economy. So just one case that I'm going to focus on centers on how this violence against women is structured in Marange. It's taken from the documentary that we...
Simiso, I suggest you go to your key point and begin to round off. You have about 2 minutes to go.
Thank you, Sam. So it's centered on the documentary that we released in 2018 called the Marange, the Imprisoned Communities. So this is the headman for the area explaining that the mining companies took over their farming lands and fenced it. So when farming lands were taken, it meant that people had no means of surviving. So they would then sneak back into the diamond fields, which are now protected by the military and the police, and as well as private security companies. Okay, so in 2008, around July, let's go to the next slide. There is a picture of a woman in a hospital. The next one, yes, around September 2008, this woman whom you are seeing on the picture, together with others from the community, they were caught by the security guards. After being caught by the security guards, they were beaten. She tried to plead, explaining that she's only trying to survive, but she was actually told that that is not a place for women. We can go to the next slide. She was told that it is not a place for the women. This is the woman after she was out of hospital now. So they were beaten. According to her, she says they were beaten like bandits. And the security officers even forced them.
I'm afraid I will have to cut you off. Can you use
they were forced to undress. They were forced to undress, and that's how they were humiliated as women. Then they were even beating. The last picture shows her. She's showing us some scars where she sustained injuries. So that's the case, the extent of abuse of women in Marange. But there are many more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simiso. Simiso has told us about how the companies took over farming lands, fenced it up, and then they used to catch the women that will have to sneak in there because they were hindered from freely entering into their farmlands, and the women were caught up by the security forces and humiliated. Thank you, Simiso, for sharing that experience. The second presenter is Gisela Zumbuzzi. Gisela has been working with rural communities in Mozambique for 6 years. She focuses on gender justice issues as well as environmental advocacy, conservation, and preservation. Gisela, you have 7 minutes to make your presentation. Please, I will be more strict with you than I was with Simiso. Your 7 minutes starts now. Unmute your microphone and speak. Hello, Gisela. It's like Gisela is having problems with her audio. Should we move on to the third presenter while we give Gisela time to sort out her audio?
Yes, please. And then if you could just move to the next presenter and we'll sort out Gisela's connection.
Okay, Esther. Esther, I'm sure you're ready to come on.
Yeah, sure.
So Esther Finda-Kande will be the next presenter while we wait for Gisela to fix her audio. Esther is the founder and national coordinator of Women and Mining and Extractives in Sierra Leone. WoMin. WoMin was founded in 2013 to address the numerous challenges faced by women in mining communities. Esther, you have 7 minutes, please.
Hello, everyone. Hello? Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
Esther.
Hi, Esther.
Hi, good
Hi,
morning.
Esther. We can hear you.
Morning.
We
Yeah,
can hear you.
yeah, my presentation is going to be focused on artisanal miners and the human rights issues they are faced with in Sierra Leone. When I say human rights issues, I'm talking about violence against their bodies and even economic violence. Sierra Leone is known for natural resources. We have a lot of gold, diamond, rutile, natural resources. We have plenty of it in Sierra Leone. And this mining started in Sierra Leone around 1930. And since then, we have a lot of artisanal miners across Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, we have different forms of mining. We have corporate mining, we have large-scale mining, and we have artisanal mining. And artisanal mining is basically for the locals, that is the community. We have gold or diamond, the locals are given the opportunity to mine. So this sector, as time goes on, we've seen a lot of women also joining the artisanal mining sector because it's cheap, it's very easy to work in that sector. You use local implements or equipment to mine. So my case actually is going to focus on a community in Sierra Leone called Nimi Korochigo, with the case study of a lady who actually explained our audience the challenges they are going through as women. There was a place, there's a place that they are mining presently, and this started 2 years back. So this place, there's a lot of mining going on, artisanal mining specific.
Sorry, Esther. Esther, it's Sam.
Yeah.
You got a really bad connection, so why don't you switch off your video? I think it might help. Thanks.
Okay. So this community is very far where the artisanal mining is going on. It's very far from the town itself. But you can see women, some of them will move in, from a very far distance to embark on the mining, and some actually spend the night in the environment where the mining is taking place. And men who are leading the process because they have the money and they also have the physical ability to mine the gold, they contract these women to help them to transport the gold and also help them with the washing and also help them to prepare food and also help them to fetch water, clean water to drink, because it's very far from where they are working because the environment is so polluted, the water is polluted because they are doing gold mining. So what happened in the night, because they put up a temporary structure in the place that they are doing the mining because they don't want to go far off because of the distance and they have a lot of work. So in the night, a lot of men, the men and the women are staying in the same place, but the women are facing a lot of violence by the men. You know, they ask them for sex in the night, but the woman, one of the women said, no, I am not here for this. I am here to work. I am not here because I need a man. I am here to work on the terms that have been set. And one of the terms is, if you work for them for the whole of the day, they give you a bag of the gravel. So you wash, and whatever comes out of it is yours. If nothing comes out of it, then you lose. So this is the term that you're working on. And the woman disagreed, and there was a very big fight, you know, and the structure was put to fire. She put the structure to fire because she was very, very angry with what the man did. And what we, you know, unheard later, because we interviewed a lot of women that are working on this, that this is the that this is the way they are doing the work.
Esther, you have about 1 minute.
Oh my God. So what we are doing now, because of the numerous challenges,
So you might want to begin to wrap up.
Okay. Because of the numerous challenges the women are facing and they don't have nobody to talk with, we are now organizing them. We want them to be together. We want them to share their stories. We want them to speak with one language. And one of the most disturbing things in Sierra Leone is, even when policies are being drawn, even when policies are being developed on artisanal mining, these women are not considered because they are not organized and the government don't know about them. Though they are working, we have a lot of women working in that sector. So we are now organizing and have a lot of meetings across the country. As I speak, we have different artisanal mining women we have now organized. And also we are organizing them because we want them to also be together and form cooperative. Because as it is, they are facing a lot of violence because the men are leading. And if we think if they form a cooperative and they have their own license and work, they can hire a man to work for it rather than be working for the men. So the issue of violence we minimize. And also the violence that they are facing it individually. Some are facing it and nobody is saying anything about it. They are silent about it, and we want them to begin to speak about it.
You will have to round up in the next 10 seconds.
Okay, well, I'm just running up now. So
can you round up?
Yeah, basically this is what we are doing now, because they are working, but they are not visible and nobody knows about them, and they are going through a lot of human rights issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for sharing that story about the ordeals that female are exploited by the men in the mining camps and the important role that women is playing organized. Thank you very much, Esther. Can we have Gisela now?
Ma'am, Gisela is not back in, so I'd like to suggest, I feel like Simiso, we lost some of the details of how women were affected when they were evicted from the artisanal mining fields. And Esther, it would be really good to hear some of the details of how women have been affected in the artisanal mining sector in terms of violence. So maybe could we go back? Simiso, are you there? Could you just tell us a little bit more? Because we just saw the photographs of the women, but we don't know what actually happened to them. And Morange has been probably one of the most violent mining sites in the world, in which artisanal miners and women have been greatly affected. So I want to hand back to you, Simiso. Please tell us a little bit more, because we do not have Gisela with us at the moment.
Okay, so when these women were caught by the police, they were beaten to the extent that they were hospitalized, and they incurred financial losses paying for hospital bills. And moreover, they were forced to undress as the security guards and police officers were checking if they had any diamonds on them. So that is some form of abuse against women. And to think of that, these women have had their fields taken away from them, the land had been grabbed, they had lost their sources of livelihood. And so the burden of caring for the families, providing food for the families, lied squarely with these women. And as a result, they end up being forced to have illicit relationships with some of these security officers and military officers, so that they can, as well, they can again get access to the diamond fields and continue to sustain their families. So this is the extent of abuse happening in Marange, in brief. Hello, Sam. I'm not sure if you can hear me, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, we
Samiso.
can hear you. There is breaking up.
Okay, I had winded up. I basically summarized what they went through. They were beaten to the extent that they were hospitalized, and the hospital bills were never paid for by either the company or the state, which deployed the military and the police. Their livelihoods taken away from them. Then the burden of caring for the families, providing food for the families, which lies squarely on their shoulders, remained there. And as a result, some of these women are forced to have relationships with these soldiers, with these security guards, so that they are protected and get access to the diamond fields to look for diamonds that they can sell. That's my input.
Great, thanks, Samiso.
Thank you very much.
So Esther, could we hear from you? Your time was short and we heard a lot about context, but it would be really fantastic to hear a little bit more around the details of the conditions under which women are working in the artisanal mining sites and the violence they confront every day. Thanks, Esther, over to you.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Esther, we can hear you.
Okay. The artisanal miners, actually, I want to talk about two violence, human rights issues that they are faced with. One we call the economic violence, and also the sexual violence that they are faced with. Their male counterparts, normally demand set for them to work with the team, because they work as a team. The men, they cannot do everything, so they need women to complement them. So they demand sex so that you continue to stay in the team that they are working with. So if you don't comply, they either send you out of the team, or you don't get the actual reward that you are supposed to get, because you are like resisting the advances that they are making towards you. So this is one violence that they are faced with. Also, the economic violence is because the work that they are doing with the men knows the value of the gold more than the women. Most of them they are not educated, they are not exposed. So they take that advantage, because women, they think they have very little knowledge about the gold that they are mining. So at the end of the day, if what they are giving back to the women is very, very meager, it's just for them to go back home and eat, and nothing more and not more. So we see that as the key issues that the women are faced with: economic violence and the sexual violence. Because if you resist them, they will not allow you to work with them anymore. And so most of these women don't have alternatives. If they don't work in the gold mining, that means they have no source of income. So they have to comply. If you want to comply, if not, you are out.
Thank you very much, Esther. Thank you very much, Esther. We cannot get Gisela back into the room. So at this stage, I will hand over to Winnet to coordinate the breakout session. Hello, Winnet.
Thanks, ma'am. Okay, so before we go into the breakout rooms, I would want us to have, we didn't have an opportunity to say hi to each other and also to introduce ourselves in terms of who we are and where we are coming from. So we're going to use a methodology where I'm going to ask all of us to respond to a question that I'm going to put into a chat box. However, when you respond to your question, can you wait for me to say press enter? So you respond to your question. Once you're done responding to your question, you flick your hands up. Until everyone has finished and they've flicked up their hands, can we only press enter? So the question that I want us to respond to, I've put it in the chat box, is we want to say hi to each other. Can you include your name, the country you're joining us from, and also share a reason why you joined today? So you put that in your chat box without pressing enter. Once you have finished writing your response, you flick your hands up. So until everyone has flicked their hands up, can you only press enter? So we want to press enter at the same time. So remember, when you're done, to flick your hands. Esther, can you wait? Can we not press enter, please?
Oh, sorry. Oh my God.
So your name, say hi, include your name, country, where you're joining from, and share the reason why you joined today. So I see a number of hands that are flicking. So unfortunately, we also have people who don't have their cameras on. So I'll not be able. Okay, thank you. This works when I'm seeing people's screens. So if you can just briefly put your camera on so that I can see hands. I see a lot of flicking hands. Yes. At this moment, we can just press enter. Thank you. So this is a methodology called Chapter 4, where we are trying to interact together in this platform, in this process, where there are too many of us and it becomes really impossible for us to do individual introductions. But thank you so much. This also helps us to see who's here, where you're coming from, and come to everyone. So at this stage, I'm going to invite us to go into groups, into breakaway rooms. The breakout groups are going to work in such a way that everyone is going to be co-host. I'm going to implore all of us, because once we're made co-host, it means that there are functionalities that as participants we're not able to use. There are functionalities that we're not able to use. I think there's a co-host who's already stopped my video. There are functionalities that we're not able to use, but once we are in this, once we all become co-hosts, it means these functionalities are now open to us. So I'm going to implore all of us not to move anything on our laptops, particularly the record button, as we as we may find ourselves, you know, stopping the recordings, and so let's be very careful as we become a co-host. I also, so in terms of the breakaway rooms, everyone will be taken out of the space into a waiting room, and where you'll be able to choose the breakaway room that you'd like to join based on your language. So the groups are going to be language based. We have 3 English groups, 2 French groups, and 1 Portuguese group. So what we're also going to ask is, when you get into your group, if there are too many of you in that group, you may be moved out of that group into another group, so that we have a balance of people in the rooms. And also you find that when you go into the selected room, please can you wait for others, because our internet connectivities are different. It may take more time for other people to be able to join you in the breakout room that you will be in. So we're going to have 30 minutes in the breakout room to discuss the following question. What related experience would you like to share, and what are your responses to what you have heard? So we are also going into our own personal, you know, experiences, but also relating them to some of the things that we've read in terms of the presentations that have been made. So when you're now in your groups, in your breakaway groups, can you please choose a rapporteur who will take 2 points back into plenary? When we come back into plenary, please note that the points will be shared on chat and not verbally. The rapporteur will take note, but then based on those notes, what are the 2 most important things that you want to take back into plenary? These are going to be typed into the chat box. We're not going to feedback verbally. I also want to implore us, when we go into the groups, to also think about how it is that we hold the space, and how it is that we ensure that there is equality, everyone is given, there's equal attention and equal turns, and we're also giving each other full attention in the groups. When we come back, which is something that I'll remind you, when we come back into the plenary session, we will have to choose our language again. So we have to go back to the interpretation channel at the bottom of our pages and choose our language again. So thank you. We are going to be teletransported into a waiting room, and then we're going to choose the breakout rooms. So this is a process that may take a few minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Wynette and team. I'm ready to open the breakout rooms. Everyone will be moved automatically, and everyone will be moved automatically into the lobby. From there, they can choose which breakout room to go to. Thank you. Opening the breakout rooms.
Thank you, Danielle.
So we'll give it a few seconds for everyone to return to the main room, and then we'll hand over to Wynette to carry on the conversation and checking in with how your conversations went in your breakout rooms and what insights you came to.
As we wait for everybody to be transported back, can I just remind us all to choose our language again? Can we go back to the interpretation and you choose your language? So welcome back, everyone. I hope we had a wonderful time where we're able to share experiences and also get to, you know, have voice, where we're able to speak and be able to get to know each other better and the work we're doing in the different countries. So I'm going to ask the rapporteurs to, in the chat box, just put in their reflections, 2 points that were reflected in each group. These are things that we're going to come back to. We're going to come back to these reflections at some point. If you can just put your reflections, 2 reflections from your groups into the chat box. Someone has their mic, they're not on mute. Someone is not on mute. Can we please kindly all be on mute? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask us to use the Charter for methodology yet again. And in this instance, I want us to share. I want us to share our biggest takeaway or insight from the small group conversations. What was your biggest takeaway? And like the first time, take 1 minute to reflect. I'm going to put the question in the chat box. Take 1 minute to reflect and think about, reflect, type it, and then we do the finger flick yet again. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to reflect on one takeaway or insight from your small group, and then you type it in the chat box, and then we do the flick once we are done. I'm putting the question in the chat box. If we have done our reflections and typed our responses, can we do the flick? Once you have come up with your response, can you do your flick? So think about the biggest takeaway or insight from the small group conversation. Aminata, we are not sharing yet. I want us to do the flick. We want to share at the same time. So once we are done typing, can we do the flick? Oh, there are people with videos off, so I won't be able to see the flick. Okay. Can we all press enter? Thank you. So I'm going to hand back over to Imem for our next session. And she's going to introduce our next round of presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnet. Our next round of the contributors are from Sierra Leone, and we have Aminata and we have Iyanda. Aminata Finda is a media practitioner and activist in Sierra Leone, interested in issues around women and girls. She is one of the few female station managers in one of the leading media houses of culture radio. Her passion is to see women get justice. She is also a member of the Informal Alliance Against Industrial Oil Palm Plantations in West and Central Africa. In fact, in this session, we are also going to see how violence occurs elsewhere outside the extractive terrain, which means that it is not only in extractive that women experience violence. Actually, it looks like women experience violence in all spheres of life. So without taking much time, I want to introduce Aminata and give her between 5 to 7 minutes to make her contributions. Please, Aminata, we don't have much time. Okay. I will appeal to you to stick to the 7 minutes.
All right. I am Aminata Finda Masakwe, as you've already said. I'm here to talk about our work as an alliance against the industrial plantations in West Africa. You know, this alliance is more focused. I just want to introduce the alliance a little bit, to talk about the alliance. The alliance came about 10 years ago, and it's as a result of the extension of plantation work in West Africa, more especially, and Eastern Central Africa. You know, where these industrial work has been taking place in a very large scale. And as a result of this, it has been affecting our small-scale farming in the different communities. These people, these women, more especially women, the alliance is focused on women. And we are all interested on the position of women in our governments giving vast of lands to large-scale plantation organizations that are coming in West Africa and Central Africa. And we've seen that as a result of this large-scale work, the women are being thrown out of the field because they depended on small-scale farming. They are now not capacitated, you know, to carry on with their small-scale farming. Some of them used to do their work, you know, to feed their families, to send their children to school. But because of this big-scale farming, these are plantations, now large-scale plantations, the women are being thrown out of the field. And because of our traditions here in Africa, more especially, women are not entitled to some parts of the country. Women are not entitled to land. So they depended on their husbands or their the male family members to work on those lands. And when it comes to taking care of the family, women are actually taking care of the homes. They look after the children. So with taking them out of the land now, it's become a very, very serious challenge. So now, what are we doing as an alliance? We are now looking at how to give these women voice. First of all, we are engaging these women to give them voices, to let them know that they have rights. Because even in our different countries, there are laws that are now giving women rights. But if the women don't know their rights, it's becoming very, very challenging, you know. So now we are engaging the women on in these communities across West Africa and Central Africa, so to let them know that they have rights to their lands. And definitely they should stand up against these big plantations, these companies that are coming to grab the lands from them. They have so many tactics in engaging the community people. They come in, they will tell them that we'll send your children to school. They give them so many promises. But when the work started, when they start work on these lands, the promises are not adhered to. They leave the women and the children suffer. So now we want these women to stand, and they have been doing this. In Sierra Leone here, for example, we have a women group, they call them Maloa, because they've come to stand against SOCFIN as a particular organization. You know, we have activists. Activists are being tortured because of they standing along with the people, you know, against land grabbing. We have women that have been arrested. We have a case study here of a woman, an elderly woman, as you can see on the screen now. This is Anadine in a Pujon district here in Sierra Leone. She has been beaten, she has been jailed, she has suffered a lot because she now knows her rights, and she is now asking that she will not give in her land to any organization or institution that will not adhere to their own terms and to the conditions that they will give them. As we speak now, she is still in court alongside other men. Some of these people have died in detention. Anadine was brutalized. She was molested because she stood for her rights. This is just one of the cases, you know, among so many other cases, because women are suffering and they are not being listened to. So we want them to, you know, to be a formidable group to ask for their lands through engagements. As you can see on the screen now, this is one of the engagements here in Sierra Leone, Putloko, where the women came together and asked for their lands back. They told everybody that we want our forests and lands back. Our lands are our rights, and we should live and depend on these our lands. Another thing is that many houses are going into shatter because the men are getting out of job. The women cannot farm on their land.
You should be rounding up now.
Okay. And it's
you have 1
difficult.
minute to round up.
Okay. It's becoming difficult for even take care of their homes because their children, their daughters are not listening to them because they cannot fend for them. They cannot put food on the table. So we want to say this has been a very big challenge. We need to support the women across West Africa, across the central part of Africa, to give them the voice that they need to stand against these large-scale farmers that are grabbing their lands from them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aminata, for sharing that experience. I actually felt so bad hearing the story of Nadine. It's an experience that we have. I don't know whether that is a just state in Nigeria. I know you walk across the West African region. Thank you very much once again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we will take the second contributor from Iyanda Land Movement. We will listen to Fumla Mengu Msobo. She's a single parent, farm worker, and entrepreneur. She resides in South Africa in the province of the Eastern Cape in a rural forest.
Hey everyone.
Fumla, you have 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can go on.
All right, thank you. As you said, I'm Fumla Mengu from South Africa. I reside in an area situated in South Africa, in northern areas of Eastern Cape Province. The place is called Thornhill in Kruger municipality. We live in a rural area, farms which deals with crops and citrus and exports and a forestry industry, of which our farm contributes in our economy. So 90% of our communities are uneducated because of a person has to work in the early age and then leave the school. So we are living in those conditions. So in our area, we have a lot of foreign nationals that are coming to live with us because we have a lot of jobs available in our area. So in our area, we have now a forum that is called Kruger Farm Workers Reunion, which deals with farm-related issues, the conditions of women, violence and exploitation of women and abuse in workplace. In our community, the abuse is very, very common. It's very common. It's a situation that we don't know what to do with it. We have cases of maternity. Women that are pregnant, they are not be able to take a maternity leave. A person has to work until a day before date of birth of your child. Sometimes that leads to women that get the miscarriage due to the heavy duty that they being exposed to by the employers. One instance, there was a woman, I think last month, this woman was pregnant, and then she asked the employer to give her a light duty job, and then the employer replied like as an I didn't impregnated you, so you have to do what everyone is doing. So the woman was forced to work hard labor. Today she lost her child because of that. And then there was no consequences for the employer. And then we have another problems as an a woman has to walk more than 5 kilometers from home to work because our community has a lot of bushes. So one woman has to walk through those bushes in darkness to work and from work to home. So some of us get raped, and sometimes you get injured, sometimes you get robbed of your things like cell phones and stuff along the way. So we are really being victimized. Currently, there is a woman who is now 56 years old. She was working for more than 30 years in the farm. Apparently, as she was working, she got a bit older. As she was working on the farm, and then the employer said to her that you are a bit slow, so just go home, I don't need you anymore. The woman today, she's not working. She has no income. She has kids that are going to school. She's struggling. She doesn't even have a home. She's living in a one-room shack with 8 kids. I was there during the weekend. The situation is so painful. So our women are being exposed in those situations, and the problem now is that they don't know where to knock. They don't know where to go when they're having these problems. Fortunately for us now, we have this forum that accommodates everyone in our community and in our area. And then we have other problems, like if a woman has to go to the clinic.
You have 1 minute to.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Fumla, you have 1 minute to round off your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing. So now we will open up the floor for 10 minutes for questions, contributions, and answers. Okay. Okay, I have David, I have Larissa. So David, you have 1 minute, not more than 2 minutes to make your intervention. And after David, we will take Larissa. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Ange.
Hi.
Hi,
I
David.
will take less of 1 minute because it is just to congratulate all of you for this wonderful conversation. I'm David from Grain, and we are partner with a lot of organizations present in that conversation. And we would like to thank women and all the dynamic women contributed. I was there quietly listening from all of you, all of the struggle, which is very important for us, and particularly in West Africa, as Aminata from Sierra Leone said. And we hope that we will go and move forward with a good collaboration among us. Thank you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So Larissa, you have the floor. 1 minute, please.
Bonjour
Larissa?
à tous. Oui. Bonjour à tous. Bonjour, vous m'entendez?
Yes.
Ok, d'accord. Ok,
Yeah.
d'accord. Donc, je disais bonjour à tous. Je suis Larissa Yapo de Côte d'Ivoire, précisément de l'organisation J'y vais Côte d'Ivoire. Alors, je tenais aussi également à remercier WoMin pour cette initiative qui est bien de pouvoir partager les expériences que vivent les femmes et puis également les expériences aussi avec les organisations qui travaillent avec les différentes communautés. Alors, moi, je voulais partager aussi ma contribution concernant les violences qui sont perpétrées au niveau des femmes en Côte d'Ivoire et puis aussi des femmes au niveau de la Guinée. Comme nous avons eu à travailler dans les petites salles de réunion tout à l'heure. Alors, je vais commencer juste, comme j'ai 1 minute, juste pour parler que la violence qui est faite au niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire se situe surtout au niveau des plantations industrielles avec les multinationales. Les femmes sont victimes de violences, d'intimidation, d'agressions sexuelles, de bastonnades aussi dans les plantations, ce qui fait que elles n'ont pas la capacité de pouvoir s'organiser véritablement et puis de pouvoir subvenir à leurs besoins. Elles sont contraintes à faire des activités qui parfois touchent à leur dignité, étant donné qu'elles ne connaissent pas leurs droits. Alors, je voulais aussi signifier que, oui, voilà, excusez-moi, je voulais aussi signifier que
Thank you, Larissa. I will have to call on you to round up your intervention.
Ok, d'accord. Ok, je conclure par mentionner aussi la violence au niveau de la Guinée.
Thank you very much.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Merci, merci.
Merci. So before I call on Shamim to make the concluding contribution, I will give 3 minutes to Gisela, if she can just give a summary of what she wanted to share. 3 minutes, please. Is Gisela ready?
Okay.
Gisela, you can take 5. Gisela, you can take 5, yeah.
Okay,
Hello?
Thank you, Sam.
Hello?
You have 5
Cynthia?
minutes. Yes, yes, you have 5 minutes.
Ok, boa tarde a todos. Desculpas pela entrada tardia, tive problemas técnicos aqui de internet. Meu nome é Gisela Zumbuzzi, eu trabalho na Justiça Ambiental em Moçambique. Eu vou falar sobre a mineradora Jindal. A mineradora Jindal, que é proveniente da Índia, opera em Moçambique, na província de Tete, desde 2013. Extrai o carvão a céu aberto e iniciou as suas atividades sem o estudo de avaliação de impacto ambiental, sem a licença do início das suas atividades e sem reassentar as 500 famílias que vivem na concessão mineira, e das quais 289 são as que vivem mesmo na concessão mineira, contrariando assim a lei, porque nenhuma atividade deve iniciar sem o estudo de avaliação de impacto ambiental e sem reassentar as pessoas e sem a licença. Então temos aqui perante um exemplo clássico da imunidade corporativa. Isso é causado pela má ou quase a ausência da implementação das leis, a corrupção, que é também um dos grandes problemas que nós temos aqui em Moçambique, e a fraqueza institucional. A mineradora Jindal não trouxe nenhum benefício para as comunidades e nem para o país, mas sim favoreceu e continua a favorecer alguns intentos de algumas elites sociais aqui em Moçambique. Os membros da comunidade, para poderem ter emprego, tinham que ser jovens, e lá temos a maior parte são pessoas já adultas, ou tinham que pagar também algum valor monetário para comprar a vaga. As mulheres tinham que fazer troca de sexo para poder ter emprego, e também violações graves da lei de terra. Se a pessoa está doente, por mais que falte e por mais que apresente, portanto, as justificativas, ele era descontado ou é mandado embora. Mesmo quando há falecimentos, então as pessoas não têm direito de faltar por doença, não têm direito de faltar por alguma infelicidade de algum membro familiar. São descontados ou são mandados embora. A comunidade perdeu as suas fontes de subsistência por causa da poluição do ambiente e danos do ecossistemas. Na comunidade de Caçoca, onde a Jindal funciona, tinha um rio chamado Caçoca, que é este rio que as populações usavam para tirar a água para o seu uso nas suas famílias, e o rio secou por causa dos impactos da mineradora Jindal, e também a produção alimentar começou já a ter muita fragilidade por causa desta poluição dos próprios solos. Os próprios solos ficaram contaminados. Perante essa situação, a Justiça Ambiental fez vários contactos a várias instituições do governo, que é para denunciarmos essas condições de vida que a comunidade de Kasoka esteve sujeita. Foram submetidas a várias instituições do governo, mas infelizmente não tínhamos resposta nenhuma. A Justiça Ambiental fez várias capacitações legais sobre a terra, sobre a Constituição da República, sobre o reassentamento para as próprias comunidades e também a questão da equidade de género, porque acontece é que todas as reuniões que havia entre o governo e a empresa só participavam os homens e as mulheres não participavam. E falamos da importância do envolvimento das mulheres nessas reuniões de tomada de decisões. E a população perdeu completamente a livre circulação, conforme viram nas fotografias. Tem lá uma cancela e tem logo a seta ali na entrada da comunidade que diz que é proibida a entrada sem autorização. E a população só podia sair, voltar às 20. Depois das 20 não podiam sair e nem podiam entrar. As pessoas que iam lá visitar, como as organizações da sociedade civil, tinham que primeiro dizer a sua proveniência, para onde vão e que família vão visitar. Aí é que podiam ser autorizados ou não, mas também éramos sempre acompanhados por as seguranças da própria Gindal e acabou sendo difícil perdermos o espaço como organizações da sociedade civil ali na comunidade. O que nós fazíamos quando fazíamos as capacitações e as reuniões era tirar a comunidade para a cidade de Tete, como forma também de garantir a segurança das próprias famílias. Em 2015, a Justiça Ambiental submeteu o caso no Tribunal da província de Tete. A procuradora, conforme vêem as fotos aí, foi visitar o local e verificou que realmente as denúncias todas que a Justiça Ambiental levantou são verdadeiras, mas no julgamento em 2016...
Gisela, you have 1 more minute.
Ok. Disseram que a Justiça Ambiental não tinha razão, a sentença favoreceu a empresa, e que disseram que a empresa está a trabalhar dentro das leis e também está a respeitar os direitos humanos das populações. A Justiça Ambiental recorreu na primeira instância e em 2018 saiu a sentença favorável às comunidades que deviam ser reassentadas. Portanto, as comunidades neste momento são reassentadas.
You have 1 minute to conclude. Less than 1 minute.
Mas, infelizmente, tem a fotografia última, onde tem, em abril deste ano fez uma manifestação a exigir que sejam dadas as machambas que foram, portanto, prometidas. E, de uma forma geral, nós aprendemos aqui, neste processo, o caso da Gindal, que nós devemos fazer o uso de todos os dispositivos legais, tanto os dispositivos a nível nacional ou internacional. Temos que ser persistentes e sermos solidários uns para com os outros, como aconteceu neste caso. A população afetada pela Vale e por outras empresas também foram solidários com essas comunidades. E é importante também capacitar o povo, porque o povo desconhece aquilo que são os seus direitos e o envolvimento da mulher. Alô?
Gisela, you might have to conclude now.
Ok. Alô?
Thank you. You will have to conclude.
Ok, exato, obrigada. Concluindo, dizer que é muito importante, embora nós tenhamos problemas tradicionais e culturais que interferem bastante na questão de envolvimento das mulheres, temos tentado capacitar em todas as comunidades que é importante o envolvimento das mulheres também. Penso que é tudo e qualquer questão, estou aqui. Muito obrigada pela oportunidade.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be going to the concluding contribution, which will be taken by Shamim. Shamim Meir is a freelance researcher, writer, coach, and activist. She was the co-founder of the An Agenda, a journal about women's right to land and violence against women. Shamim is a close associate of WoMin and has been working with the WoMin team to finalize the Guns, Power and Politics Research and Activist Guides. WoMin has been working for some time to build an analytical framework for understanding violence against women in an extractivist, profit-oriented development model. Shamim is going to share some thoughts in conversation with contribution and comments that we have made since we started this webinar. So at this point, Shamim, I give you the floor. You will use about 6 minutes to make your presentation.
Thanks, It's been very moving hearing the presentations by all the speakers. And clearly, we need immediate responses to deal with the violence. Women need counseling and other forms of support. Also, what came out from the 3 studies was that in many situations, women don't want to talk about violence, especially sexual violence. How to get these stories out and how to get more women talking about these and sharing these seems to be something that needs to be thought about as well. Another issue is, what would justice look like for these women? Do women want to report? Report to who? For what purpose? So these are some of the longer term issues that need to be looked at. Also, it's very, you know, when one looks at those pictures that we saw of women in Mozambique, the community in Mozambique, these things are happening. These abusers, human rights abusers, are happening far away from main cities. They're happening to people who are forgotten people, people that even their governments don't care about. And this in itself allows these to continue without action being taken, and is precisely why it is so important that all of your organizations, the people who are here today, and WoMin as an organization takes action around these issues. I want to just highlight some of the things that come out in the 3 case studies as well, the 3 country studies, the research and activist guides. The one important point is that it's an economic system that enables and uses violence against these communities. The violence of displacement, the violence of continuing poverty, the violence done to women, to women's bodies and to women's lives. I want to make the point also that this system of violence has been in place for hundreds of years. Slavery, the capturing of African people from the continent of Africa to create wealth for those countries who are the wealthy countries today, was a form of violence. The capturing through colonialism and imperialism of the lands and resources across Africa and in other parts of the world was violence that we saw for the past, over hundreds of years. So the countries who are rich countries today and who continue to use and abuse the resources and the people of Africa are the countries who became rich on the backs of African countries historically. And this is something that we try to show in the 3 studies that were done and that WoMin launched yesterday. So there's a continuation with neoliberal capitalism today, the way in which corporates come into our countries, but the way in which our governments collude with them to create wealth and power for a small elite. And that's the other point I want to make, is that slavery and the kind of pillage of the resources and land of this continent today could not take place if it wasn't for our own African elites who were cooperating and enabling, right, the multinational corporations to steal, to grab land, steal resources, and exploit the people. And the law, as people were saying, doesn't apply to these corporates because our governments allow them to get away with the law. So we might campaign for laws. Laws might be in place, but our governments make sure that these corporates don't have to obey these laws. For women, women become displaced from livelihoods. Their labor is abused. Their vulnerability is increased. And this makes women more vulnerable to further violence. Ecofeminists have made a very big contribution in helping us understand what is happening in this moment. And they make the point that the domination of nature and the exploitation of women are connected and linked. To keep in power, our governments and the corporates need to use violence. To continue to rob the continent of the resources that we have means they have to use violence. And this violence that is embedded and deeply a part of the predatory economic system of neoliberal capitalism is the violence that we saw in the slides that we saw today in Marange, the violence on the bodies of those women, the violence of poverty that we saw in the slides from Mozambique. What we need to change are the structures of oppression. So what this way of looking at the problem makes clear that this is not an individual woman's problem. It's not a problem in just one country. It's a problem that is linked and tied with the system of economic exploitation. And what we have to change is that system. We have to move to create a non-violent, sustainable, peaceful economy that respects women and respects the earth, that is not hell-bent on making as much profit as possible, as much wealth as possible for a few people at the expense of the earth's resources and at the expense of women's bodies. And this is the message from ecofeminists, which I think is something we need to take on board, even as we find ways to help the individual women who have been violated and who need counseling support, who need immediate help because they've been violated right now. Even as we need to find ways to make sure that the people who are arrested and who are in jail are given support and don't remain there. So even as we have to deal with the immediate effects of the problems of violence, so too do we need to work towards creating this world where women will be respected and where the environment and the earth will be respected, and where we have peace in place of the ongoing violence. And like I think it was said in our small group, that this violence has been with us for so long, for so many centuries, in fact, that we come to see this violence as normal, and we come almost to find unimaginable that we can live in a condition of peace where we can respect all human beings. So those are my final points. And thank you. It's been really interesting to hear from everybody. And I think it's really important that women come together to look at ways of creating a new reality.
Thank you very much, Shamim. Those are very strong concluding comments, talking about how the economic system exploits women, talking about how women become displaced from livelihood. Actually, from all the stories that has been shared, it has to do with women and livelihood. Talking about the relationship between the domination of nature and the exploitation of women, and also violence of poverty and violence on women's bodies. Thank you so much, Shamim, and thank you to all the sisters that have contributed their stories from their different local contexts. Before I hand over to Winnet for the concluding session, on a lighter note, I want to say that Sunday was my birthday. I turned 54 on Sunday. You can see my face is elegantly made up. I'm wearing a t-shirt that is printed about the birthday. And we are actually doing a 4-day training on right to say no. I was shocked when I entered the hall on Sunday and I saw happy birthday on the wall. So as we are giving the concluding remarks, just wish me a happy birthday. Thank you so much. Winnet, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mem. It seems like the moderator and the co-moderator have birthdays that it's also my birthday tomorrow. So we can say happy birthday to Mem, and you can also extend birthday wishes to me. So I'm going to request all of us, if possible, to put our videos on as we say goodbye. Okay. It would be good to see everyone's face. And we also want to take a screenshot. And how we are going to go about this is we want to say goodbye in our local languages. And Sam is going to help us by taking a screenshot of, you know, all of us saying goodbye in our local languages with our hands up. So thank you, everyone. I'm hoping that most of us will be able to put our videos on for this.
Let's see our interpreters as well, please.
Yes, we want to see everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Cynthia, Rachel, are you able? Yes.
Great.
So, hands up. We say we are going to say goodbye in our home language. So tonana or something. So we just say it and we're just flicking our hands to say goodbye.
Una bye bye.
Sam, are you good?
Hold on. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
In many pages, so I think I've got everyone.
Okay, great. So thank you again, everyone, for taking time to be with us today. We hope to take this up and ensure that this conversation also feeds into many other things that we're doing, and we hope part of many other things to follow. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Happy birthday.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Au revoir. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Obrigado.